Hey,
Hey, hey, hey. I mean, let's say
the
perseverance, right?
the carrier pigeon is working.
I think it's absolutely genius. Well done. Because actually, for two people of our age to master this,
Yeah.
pretty
Hey,
spectacular.
hold on. Are you putting me in the same category as you, Mr.
Well,
Dawson?
I mean, very roughly. Yeah, I know you don't look it. You've got, for a headmaster, you've got very few grey hairs. What's
I
going
know
on?
Grecian 2000 is an amazing thing.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks, Gordon. Yeah, really good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, no, very well on this really rather miserable day. This is not a day for.
It is an absolutely miserable day. Do you know, I've just run from the other side of the school campus to get here on time. And I've passed children playing cricket, would you believe, in the playground,
I
which
love it.
I thoroughly approve of, but they were drenched through. So there's that awful headmasterly moment where you have to say, no, come on, chaps, is this really sensible? And
Yeah,
actually, what you want to do is join in with them playing cricket.
exactly. You'll get blamed if they all get flu. You'll get the blame. I
Yeah,
love it. Very British spirit. Well, look,
exactly,
Ron,
exactly.
it's really kind of you. I know you're a busy man, and very kind of you to spare the time to chat. And you may have seen a few of these we've done with other schools and stuff. And it's just really a different way to engage with you and the school, and to allow our members and people that follow school notices to sort of get a better idea about Cheam, about you, about how things work, and hopefully a few prospective parents looking around, just getting a better feel for the British prep school system, which, as we all know, is magnificent. Now you getting back to the grey hairs, you've been a headmaster for quite a long time. You've been in the industry for a long time. How has life changed, do you think, for you as a headmaster? Your job, your primary role is a teacher. That's your qualification, but actually you're more of a CEO of a good sized business. So how do you juggle those two roles?
Well, that's a really good, and I think probably every head would agree with me that you walk this fine line continually. I was going to say every day, but it's probably hour to hour.
Yeah,
Uh, from being a teacher, and we all long to be in the classroom, and I've clung on to my few lessons of philosophy once a week because actually it's a little bit of paradise. It's lovely to be in there. But I think probably that's the biggest difference in the time that I've been a head and a deputy is being, instead of being a head master, you are more of an amateur lawyer, accountant,
yeah,
businessman. We are jack of all trades.
yeah,
The worst thing about it is the effect that it has on your golf handicap. And
yeah.
I only did this job because I thought the chap I was deputy to was a wonderful headmaster and used to disappear off at least once a week to play golf.
Don't happen anymore. Those times have gone.
Yeah, I even lost to you last year. So.
Yeah, well, you're in a very, very small gang there, I can tell you. Nothing to be proud of.
I mean, in all seriousness, I think that the important thing for all of us is we control our destiny, and is to cling on to the things that we became heads for. And I get rather grumpy when heads start complaining about loss of time and how much compliance we all have to go through. It's the same in lots of businesses, and I think what we have to do is get ourselves a really good personal assistant. And I hope she's listening to this because I can say what a great PA I've got. But actually, joking apart, they have become so important in managing your time, and they play a big part in that. And I think trying to manage your time effectively is the real big challenge. And I think the other difference, the last difference I would say, is that probably 25 years ago, heads were leaders. And over the last 25 years, they've become more managers.
Yeah,
And balancing those two roles is a really, very difficult thing, but an important thing to get right. And I would say that certainly over the last year and everything that we've been through, heads have had to be leaders again,
yeah.
because that's what all our communities have needed. So it's important that you try and find a really effective balance there.
Totally. And actually, in my experience, in our dealings with schools, we work closely with loads and loads of schools, and I'm just staggered by how well they've managed all this, because this is a nightmare for all of us. But actually, we have a fine line between wanting our children at home and then being desperate to get rid of them back to school. And I think all you guys have done a brilliant job. So sort of hats off to that.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because, funnily enough, I think here I am sort of almost reflecting on the last year. We're not through it yet, are we? But actually, I hope that there is a sort of slightly larger light at the end of the tunnel. I think that we've all come much closer. I'm convinced the Cheam community is stronger and closer than it was a year ago. And I'm not saying it was disparate then, but actually, we all have made much more time for each other.
Yeah.
And I sense sort of sitting on the pinnacle that we're all much closer now. So the irony is, I think it's from some respects, it's put us in a much better place.
It's really interesting that, and I'm not going to dwell on COVID because I think we're all bored, sick with it. But do you think the stuff that we've learned through what we've had to deal with that will carry on, that schools might adopt on a more permanent basis? You know, let's say after vaccines and all the rest of it, and life returns to normal, whatever that is. Do you think the stuff that you'll hold on to that you've learned in the last 9 months?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, don't get me started. I could bore you for hours, Dawes. I think, look, very briefly, apart from the positive I just said, I think the other positives have been, and I think pretty much all parents would agree with me, that the start of the day has been smoother because the parents have had to sweep into the car park, press the ejector seat, and then drive off very quickly. And that's meant that the start of each day has been so much smoother and quicker. So that's a positive. I think where we are with IT is a really one of the really exciting points about education at this moment. I hope every head would say that. We sort of were forced into IT last term, and there's lots of things that we didn't like about learning at home, but actually the skills that the children and the staff, myself included, look at the smooth way that we joined up this morning.
I mean, seamless. Who'd have known?
There was no hitches whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, joking, the children are just doing some amazing things now on IT, and it would be silly not to capitalize on that. And some of the opportunities that the staff are doing. So I think anything that causes us to reflect and say, oh, can I do that in a different way or a better way or try another way? That's got to be a good thing. And if there was a negative about the whole sort of prep school system, that just occasionally we get stuck in ruts. So look, I'm always trying to look for positives, and the positive would be that we've all looked at things from a different angle, tried them, and some of it we're going to stick with. So brilliant. I think there are plenty of good things to come out of it.
Well, I think that's great, and school nurses particularly. We're built on digital communications. It's what we do, and actually, it's really worked well for us in the last 9 months. We've had much more interaction directly with schools and parents digitally, and I think that's really going to roll forward. We've got a lot of plans for providing content and educational stuff to schools and parents, so that's been a real plus for us. But look, getting back to Cheam for a minute, I'm coming from a rather biased standpoint. I've had three boys through Cheam, and we've all loved it. Us as parents and them as boys. The last one, Will, started age 4. He was slightly sort of hauled out of London and put into the pre-prep, which I know is a real, I mean, he was at Cheam probably, I don't know, wouldn't be 12 years, no, it must be whatever.
10 years.
I mean, and he loved it. But for you, the pre-prep, I know, is a big thing. And what do you think the pre-prep gives to your pupils or your children, looking to work their way through prep school and then on to senior school? What does the pre-prep provide them with?
Look, lots of things. I mean, it is the start of the journey, and I think it's such. Perhaps we don't make enough of the fact that it is a journey. It's not just 7 to 13 or 7 to 18 or whatever it might be in various schools. I think in the whole independent sector, just looking at that journey is such an exciting possibility. I think it's the family. I think being in the same place as your brothers and sisters is a real gold opportunity. But I think our prep school, our pre-prep here, it's marrying the same standards. So ensuring that the same high standards in their learning, the same range of opportunities. And what a great opportunity the 3s and 4-year-olds have, because they can use all the prep school facilities. They get to see other staff. And one of the things that I know the head of, we've got a relatively new head of pre-prep. She always says to parents who've come from a slightly smaller, maybe a village primary school or early years school, is to say, just get used to sort of rather large, gruff men like the headmaster, because actually, a 3 or 4-year-old doesn't always know what a sort of male voice, deep male voice sounds like. So
Yeah.
it's little things like that, just getting used to life. And I think obviously we come to school to learn, and we've encouraged the prep school staff to all go down into the pre-prep, and almost without exception, they've all realised that there's another world out there, and they should be involved in that far more. So that's been a really positive experience for the children and for our staff. And I think it's all the other extras that they do. I look at the opportunities for drama and sport, and just making the most of 100 and whatever it is, 10 acres of woodland and playing fields, and getting out. You know, that's got to be a positive. So it's all about introducing them to all those opportunities and a smooth, seamless transition through into the prep school. I don't want them to sort of feel almost as though there's a barrier. You don't have to show your passport as you go through from one to the other. It's just a smooth, seamless transition.
Well, it worked. I can tell you, it worked really amazingly for us, and Will loved it. And you get to that stage, age 13, as a child, that they're really ready to go, but actually they don't really want to, because they feel so entrenched in that family, as you say.
Yes.
But it is great. And actually, you talked about the facilities and the location of Cheam. I mean, the one thing that when we were driving down from Wandsworth to look around schools really knocked my socks off was that view from the back of the main building down over the cricket pitches and what have you. I mean, I spent probably too long on the boundary with too many glasses of wine over a course of probably 13 years. Absolutely loved it. And you're very lucky. I mean, they're spoilt rotten with that amount of space to run around in. It is amazing.
Do you know what? I find myself saying to parents who are moving out of London, we are so lucky, we're blessed here, because we sit with great links into London, both road and rail, and yet actually this is the first sort of concentric ring around London that you actually feel as though you genuinely are in the country. Yeah. And there is no better place for children to grow up. I mean, this is where children can genuinely be children. And, you know, we spend, well, I just said, haven't I, 10 minutes ago when I first joined the call, you know, I passed these boys who were loving playing cricket, but it was raining and it's 3 degrees, it's freezing. It's not really cricket weather, but they wanted to be outside and they wanted to smack a ball around. And, you know,
well, I think that's brilliant.
That's what it should be all about.
Well, it is I mean, they all grow up too quickly nowadays anyway. And tell me a little bit about, a little bird told me about your Woodland learning exercise, which has almost become part of the curriculum. What was that all about?
Was that the same carrier pigeon that brought the...
That's the one bird that goes backwards and forwards, yeah.
So look, Cheam has been doing learning in the woodlands, if I can call it that, you know, for a long, long time, because it's part of the school, and we haven't given it a fancy title, but the children, part of their curriculum is to go outside and be in the woods and outside, and that's brought into science, it's brought into maths, it's brought into English, which is what Woodland learning in lots of other schools is. But it's been happening for a long time here, and I've just passed a little posse of pre-prep children who are coming back from their day out there. They've got Macs on and they've got wellies on, and they've just carried on as normal. The fact that it's raining doesn't matter. It's what it should be. Learning outside, making sure that they appreciate their environment and bring that into the learning. And I think what's lovely about that is it's just something that happens. It's not a special thing. They don't think of it as anything different. It's just part of their weekly routine.
And so amazing that's part of school life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's another change over 25, 30 years of prep schools.
I know lots of our parents who've moved out of London will just say, oh, you know, it just sort of, it comes naturally. You know, we haven't made a fuss about it. It's just there. So I was probably slow to tick that box, simply because, well, we do it anyway.
Absolutely.
It happens.
Yeah, I totally get it. And so as they move through the school and get ready to leave and to move on to pastures new, I mean, I know there's a move, this whole common entrance, pre-testing at 11, all that sort of stuff. How do you handle that, and how do you get a Cheam child to be ready even earlier, you know, 11 or 10 or whatever it is, to start taking these dreaded tests before they leave? What's the plan there?
I think that one of the things that I think is so important to say is that it's not coming to Cheam and as Will did, having his 10 or 11 years here, it is not just about which senior school they're going on to. This is a massively important time of their life. But you're absolutely right. The vast majority of the schools we feed are quite selective, and we've got to adapt what we teach in the middle of the school in particular to these pre-tests, so that by the time they get into years 7 and 8, I won't say everyone, but the majority of children know which school they're going to go to.
Yeah.
Actually, what that's done is that's provided us with a really exciting opportunity, because years 7 and 8, instead of being a slog towards common entrance, has now become a little bit freer. So a number of the schools we feed do still want us to do common entrance, and that's fine, because actually, as an academic standard, it's not a bad level to aim for. And I love seeing the children working towards something, some goal at the end of their prep school career, and actually something that they can take with them onto the next stage.
Yeah.
But it's released the shackles, so we can explore areas that we couldn't previously do. And I'm not going to slate common entrance. I mean, it has served a really good function, but it's no longer an entrance exam. It's more the sort of exit, the full stop at the end of their at the end of their time at prep school. And I think that's been an exciting move, so that we don't have 2 years of just thinking about common entrance exams. We now have perhaps the last 6-7 months in the top year thinking about it, but we're not wedded to it and spending hours doing old exam papers and all the negative bits that you have for that.
Which is so nice, because they're, you're a long time learning, like you're a long time working, and they need as much sort of just sort of relaxed, I think, just a relaxed environment time as they can get their hands on. So on a more focused on you now, what got you into teaching originally? Who inspired you to become a teacher?
When I was at university, I had some terrible news that I was too tall to be an RAF pilot. And so probably really annoying 20-year-olds. My parents must have sort of put their hands in the air and thought, what on earth are you going to do? I think it was my penultimate year at university. I met a guy who had been an ex-cricketer, professional cricketer, a guy called Bill Higginson, and he had started holiday clubs and would rent out prep schools during the holidays and coach cricket. And he was short of a teacher one year, and I think he spoke to my father, and Dad said, look, why don't you just go and earn a bit of extra cash? And probably what he meant was get out of my hair. And I loved it. And I absolutely loved it. And even though when I left university, I went to work in a bank for a year, I think already by then I knew that I didn't want to be just locked into a 9 to 5 in an office. I wanted to be outside, and I couldn't believe that anyone would pay me to do that either. So I think Bill Higginson is responsible. He just had such fun and opened my eyes to what teaching could be all about.
Okay, and if you had a young aspiring teacher come to you and say, look, I want to get into the profession, I want to become a head eventually, what advice would you give them? One bit of advice. The funniest thing is, I'm just about to see someone when I finish this call who's asked for some advice. Look, I think you've got to come in with your eyes open and give it a go. Unfortunately, it's not a job where you can just come for, say, a day and think, oh, yes, I really know everything about that job. Because every day we turn up, it is completely different, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about my job. And I'm really lucky to sometimes, perhaps lucky is not quite the right word, but I never know what's going to come day on day. But I would say go in with your eyes open. It is a fantastic job. It's a fantastic job because it's one of the most rewarding jobs you can have. And still, for me, just to answer your previous question, the thing that gets me out of bed is seeing the improvement and at the moment, sort of hearing the children outside and laughing and that's always such a rewarding sound. And I love the moment where you shake hands at the end of the year when they move on to these amazing senior schools. And you sort of remind them that I remember the time where, they had 3 left feet and used to fall over every time they tried to kick a football, or, the first time they blew the trumpet in assembly and it sounded like a raspberry, and now look at them, they're playing the last post, and it's that journey. And I know we have a laugh about it, and it's lovely for us as teachers just to be able to remind ourselves of that journey. And they play this, they're very privileged staff to be able to play such an integral part at this age, where children are doing things for the first time. So prep school is a very, very special time. So I would say it's an amazing time, but it's not for everybody. And certainly if you're coming into work
at a school like Cheam, I'm afraid if you're worried about being home at 4 o'clock or 4:30, it's not the place.
Well, it's a job full of huge responsibility. I mean, I honestly, knowing what I do about the industry, having worked with you lot for kind of 10 years or so, I think you're all amazing. I'm not sure I'd be cut out for it, but I think you did very, very well. And I'd like to thank you for your time today and for the half-hour exploration we did at 9 o'clock to try and get live. But thanks very much indeed. I know you're busy, and it's lovely to chat.
And to you, Dawson. And actually, I should apologise to everybody because it was the Cheam firewall being overly efficient this morning.
But at least we know it works, right? That's good.
Yeah.
It's a major plus we can pull from today.
Absolutely.
All right, Marty. Well, thanks so much, and have a great rest of the day. And stop those boys playing cricket. They'll be dead by now.
I'm torn. I'll be out there with them.
Go and have a quick over. All right. We'll speak to you later.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.